Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. There is room to do more regarding Burma's Rohingya, says defender Adem Carroll. Honor killings abound in Pakistan in first 40 days of 2017. Nepal's conflict victims wait anxiously for justice as justice bodies mandate extended. New law in Philippines proposes to jail 9-year-old children for crimes. Victims commemorate Talangsari massacre in Indonesia. New book of poetry on Sri Lanka by Basia Fernando. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm April Wong. This week, Just Asia begins with Burma, where the situation of the Rohingya continues to be dire. Adem Carroll, the Burma Task Force Director for New York and UN programs, shares his thoughts on the issues at stake. According to Carroll, the only way to end military impunity and the abuse against the Rohingya is for an independent commission of inquiry. The mandate of the present advisory commission, headed by the former UN chief Kofi Annan, does not extend to human rights, and other past commissions also had no credible plans to address the root causes of the Rohingya issue. Carroll further notes that citizens of ASEAN countries should do more to engage their governments regarding the Rohingya. At present, ASEAN members are prevented from doing much due to their own short-sighted political considerations. Similarly, Carroll says Aung San Suu Kyi also has room to do much more to end the abuse of the Rohingya. Burma Task Force, together with other organizations, will be holding a People's Tribunal in March in the United Kingdom to hold the Burmese government accountable for its abuse against the Rohingya.
What kind of work do you do on Rohingyas and human rights in Burma?
Well, Burma Task Force is an advocacy organization focusing on human rights, specifically of the Rohingya Muslim minority. Our member organizations are mostly Muslim American organizations, national and regional, as well as some Rohingya groups that are partnered with us. But we also partner with a range of other organizations, human rights organizations, and we also advocate for Rohingya at the United Nations. I go to the United Nations once or twice a week, speaking to the EU or OIC or different member nations. We've done some panel discussions. We try to bring in the issue of Rohingya refugees or forced migrants. We try to bring in the issue of human rights. The Special Rapporteur for Burma is excellent, and the human rights work of the United Nations is something that we're very much pleased with and promoting. However, we, like many people, are frustrated that more is not being done and that the persecution has not been stopped. And we're very frustrated with the government Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma.
The latest UN report is particularly shocking. Why is no action being taken?
Yes, the latest report has been shocking, both in the specific details, case studies, 1,000 killed since October. But those of us working on this know that the persecution has been going on so long. So this is, in a way, the tip of the iceberg. Why is more not happening? When the Pope speaks out, when we've helped 8 Nobel Prize winners speak out and call it actually a genocide, there's a lot of voices being raised, and there's actually increasing coverage. But the member states of ASEAN, who really could do more, and OIC that could do more, have been prevented by their own short-sighted political calculations.
How do you see Aung San Suu Kyi's silence on the military abuses against the Rohingya?
Very sad, very frustrating. We had some hopes that Aung San Suu Kyi would turn things around. She obviously did not create the problem, but she is not reigning in the military in Maungdaw or any other areas. Their mass rapes and violence against other minorities continue, which imperils the peace process. There's very little trust among the ethnic minorities. It seems that they haven't learned from that, and they're repeating the same pattern of abuse against the Rohingya. So it's very frustrating. Aung San Suu Kyi still could do the right thing, and she has control over some of the ministries, not all, and we realize that she is in a power-sharing relationship with the military, but she could do more. She has a mandate from the people, and even her information ministry, for example, could start to put out messages of inclusion. Yes, in the beginning there would be complaints from the nationalists and the Islamophobes, but the 969 movement does not control everyone, and I think she could do much more.
Given the lack of international regional action, what do you think can be done to help the Rohingya?
I do think that there are players within ASEAN, like the government of Malaysia and Qatar, that recently said that they would like to do more. They would like to send in peacekeepers. If allowed, they could really do a lot more if they get more support within ASEAN. What we can expect from the EU and from other Western states is not clear at the moment, but there's certainly widespread concern. How we can, finally, it's a Burmese question. The Burmese themselves must make peace amongst themselves. But I think we also need to get over the illusion that progress has been made and that we will not return to these policies. The policies haven't changed at all regarding Rohingya.
What is your opinion of Bangladesh move to relocate the refugees to an island in the Bay of Bengal?
And they want to relocate the Rohingya to an island that is famous for being barely above water and in danger of sinking. It's actually becoming a bit of a scandal in Bangladesh. So we don't see that that the neighboring nations of Burma are doing enough, and the people who are citizens there, for their own interests as well as for moral interests, can do more to press their governments.
In Pakistan, the first 40 days of 2017 has already seen over a dozen honor killings. The latest victim is 27-year-old Huma Shahnawaz, who worked at an NGO in Islamabad. An MPhil student, Huma was the sole breadwinner for her family in Kohat, KP province, providing for her widowed sister-in-law, her divorced sister, and their children. Huma started her job when her father began his battle with cancer. After his death, as the only educated individual in the family, she became the sole earner. Independent and courageous, Huma refused the advances of her cousin Mehbood Alam, who was enraged when she turned down his proposal. As a result, Huma was killed, shot viciously 4 times. Alam objected to Huma being a working woman. Pakistani society cannot handle strong, motivated women. Despite being a role model for girls and others, Huma lost her life to the menace of gender violence. Despite promises of stern action, authorities have dismally failed to address honor killings and gender violence in the country. The situation can only worsen with the passing of a new law allowing jirgas and panchayats to settle legal disputes. A misguided bid to alleviate the burden of courts and speed up justice, the law ignores, however, the well-known fact that jirgas and panchayats are notorious for gender violence and discrimination. Moving to Nepal, the country's conflict victims are increasingly anxious as to whether or not they will see justice. Nepal's transitional justice bodies have had their 2-year mandate extended for another year on February 9th. Established to investigate conflict-era cases, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the Commission of Inquiry on Enforced Disappeared Persons have faced much confusion and uncertainty. Mr. Nagendra Mugia, 41, was a Taekwondo player at the local level. He taught Taekwondo to local youths as well as Taekwondo players in Nepal's Japa district. During the height of the Maoist conflict in 2001, Maoists were forcing him to join the revolution, but he repeatedly refused. Finally, on 5th of June 2001, the Maoists arrested Nagendra. After he refused to kill some people, Nagendra was brought to Manachuli, between the border of Japa and Ilam district. There, the Maoists first killed one of Nagendra's students, and then they tortured Nagendra. Afterwards, thinking he is dead, the Maoists threw Nagendra into the river. In fact, Nagendra was alive, but unconscious after his torture. He was rescued by some locals after 3 days and received treatment at the local hospital and later in Kathmandu. Even after his treatment, however, Nagendra could not fully recover and continued to live with disability. His wife also left him, and he has been struggling without any appropriate support from the government. Nagendra and his fellow victims have had a long and painful wait for justice. They deserve a satisfactory and speedy result to the ongoing transitional justice process, and the Nepali government must take all steps to ensure that this occurs. In the Philippines, President Duterte and his allies are pushing for a law proposing children as young as 9 be jailed for crimes, together with another law to bring back the death penalty. At present, the age of criminal responsibility in the country is 15. This law is wrong from every angle, the head of the United Nations Children's Agency in the Philippines has warned. According to UNICEF's country representative Lotta Silwanda, it is against human rights and it is unfair to punish a child so harshly for something they never understood to be so serious. Local politicians opposing the bill say their passing could lead to a situation in which a 9-year-old may be sentenced to death. Proponents of the bill seem to be ignoring police statistics showing that less than 2% of all crimes are committed by children below the age of 15. Furthermore, the proposed law will not lower criminality and may have the opposite result. By incarcerating children at such a young age, they in fact become well-trained criminals by being brought up in prisons with other criminals. Silwanda said. Alternatives to detention, meanwhile, such as restorative justice programs, says UNICEF, can reduce offending by up to 70%. The draft bill was introduced by House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez, who said the current age of 15 was pampering youth offenders who commit crimes knowing they can get away with it. The amendment would propose that children aged between 9 and 18 are only criminal liable if they are determined to have acted with discernment, although it gives no specifics on how that will be decided. Next, in Indonesia, victims and family members commemorated 28 years of the Talang Sari massacre under Suharto's regime. The Talang Sari massacre took place in Lampung province on 7 to 8 February 1989, in which hundreds of people were killed, disappeared, and detained without proper trials. Victims and family members have so far made numerous efforts seeking justice in the massacre. For the last 10 years, they have urged the Attorney General to further investigate and prosecute the perpetrators in the Human Rights Court. For unclear reasons, however, the Attorney General has refused to do so, ignoring the investigation report of the National Commission on Human Rights. Despite President Joko Widodo's promise to resolve the case, no progress has been made by the government. Many victims of the massacre and their family members have died without seeing justice, while others remained traumatized, getting old and sick. And yet, they continue to commemorate the massacre, reminding the public and the government of the abuse that occurred. Between February 7 to 8, victims and their families organized a public discussion and a commemoration event in Talang Sari village. Finally, the AHRC is pleased to announce the publication of a selection of poems by Basia Fernando, Pride and Pain in Difficult Times. It's a collection of verse that bears witness to one of the most harrowing clashes in South Asian history. Part reportage and part literary reflection, the poetry brings a human voice to Sri Lanka's decades-long civil war, evoking the imagery and testimony of a land and people brutalized by a corrupt regime. Published by Bell Margis Books, the collection is available digitally and in print via Amazon.com. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on this and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.ahRC.org. alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.